Sweeney as always, and we are back for the Friday night racing, boys. We are still waiting for a couple of people. I think we are now getting ready up and going, but we are here for the Spanish Grand Prix, a Grand Prix that proves to not give us the most of action in real life. Of course, a great test track, but when it comes to the racing, doesn't usually provide. But we've got 17 guys on the grid tonight, including my usual co-commentator Mitch, who's decided to reserve for tonight, seeing as though there isn't many many spaces to be filled, so he just thought he'd jump in, and he's changing all the settings and somehow is getting away with it. But I think we are we're just waiting for something to be sorted out and people to get themselves ready up, and then we'll get underway and racing. So yeah, I'm not joined by Mitch tonight, to a lot of your disappointment. I'm sure we do love a bit of Mitch in the commentary box, gives us some incredible analysis, but you've just got me tonight. Unfortunately, myself and my croaky voice, been a long week at school, so please do allow me for any mishaps. Yeah, completely and utterly knackered, and just looking forward for my birthday on Monday. So I mean, it's not compulsory, but I mean, if you do want to PayPal me a Freddo, it would be more than appreciated. But nonetheless, yeah, just going to wait for a couple more people to get going. We've been waiting for quite a while. And it looks finally we're going to be able to get ourselves underway. Here we are then, ready to get underway and racing. So it is Max, unsurprisingly, that does lead the way in the championship, ahead of Kimi and Mitch, who is somehow in third place in the standings, despite being a reserve and despite joining me in the commentary box for 2 weeks. He's found himself third in the standings, but with 46 points, and Jim Strav right behind, he's going to be trying to keep that P3 in the championship secure. He's only, in fact, actually 8 points off Kimi in front. Kimi, of course, very quick and really does give it to Max, but just can't quite. In fact, oh no, that was after China. In fact, this is going to be after the Netherlands, which was, in fact, last week. So Max still leading the way in front. Jim Strav in second. Kieran Rees in third after a good week last week. And where has Mitch fallen down to? Yeah, Mitch has fallen down quite far back down the order, unfortunately, so that was my mistake. And we are getting into the short qualifying, so 18 minutes where they can set their lap. Hopefully no more technical issues, because it would not be would not look good at all. Usually things go very smoothly, but so far they haven't gone too smoothly. We've had some people not being able to connect and having to say please, but finally we are in the lobby, which is good. Looking for around about the one, I'd say maybe. So, apologies for that. As I was saying, looking for around about the 117 mark, I would say, in qualifying. If they can break that, they will definitely be on a good lap. But just waiting for the first couple of people. Strategy-wise, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see a few people starting on the medium tyre, the yellow wall medium tyre. It does provide a much better opportunity when it comes to strategy. Track position, very important. We've got Harv first out on his out lap, and I'll just check the audio settings that they are still all good and ready to go. Yeah, all good. Yeah, Harv, a very quick driver, especially in Formula 2 machinery, and not too bad in Formula 1 machinery himself. You can see coming towards turn 4. Just on the soft compound tyre, so going for the aggressive strategy. Thinks that the two-stop he might be able to get away with, and if there's an early safety car, definitely will help him out, or at least a midway safety car where he can stretch and prolong his tyres. Could certainly help, but coming towards turn 7, into 8, and then pretty much flat out through turn 9, I believe. But Harv will be the first to set a lap. Just on an installation, of course, the outlap. It's where they warm up their tyres and get everything sorted as he comes towards turn 12 and 13. Or I should say turn 11 and 12. Just setting himself up for his hot lap now. through the final chicane that is very, very hated amongst Formula 1 fans. Really, really hard to follow, and you can see setting himself up for the turn 15, getting on the power, flat through turn 16, and all the way to the left-hand side, ready for this long, long back straight. Longest run, in fact, to turn 1 on the calendar. Not the longest run to a braking zone, but the longest run certainly to turn 1. You can see now coming to the left-hand side, using all this curb, braking just after the 100 board, 4th gear, pretty much flat through turn 2. Use the curb on the inside, keep it tight for turn 3. Don't want to open up too much, pretty much flat if you can rev out the gears and get it very, very nicely through there from Harv, and then coming towards turn 4. Purple to the first sector, 21.0, very, very good. Runs a little bit wide, nearly onto the grass. That could compromise him as he comes towards turn 5. Down the hill a little bit, just need to aim for a tight apex. 2nd gear, roll it out to the curb. 4th gear, up the gears, and now towards the tight chicane of turn 7 and 8. The Renault there, very nicely missing him out, and you got to use the camber, use the undulation before heading back up the hill through turn 9, almost flat, but gets a little bit squabbly with DRS now back wide open. The drag reduction system giving him that extra bit of speed down the straight. 49.3 to the middle sector. Very, very nicely done from the racing point as he comes towards turn 11. Just got to completely try and keep it pinned. Late apex for turn 12. Give yourself that good run down towards turn 13 and just full send, full commitment you can see from Harv, and then keep it straight. Brake as soon as you're straight for turn 14. 15, just munch that inside curb as much as you can. Completely flat for turn 16, and that is going to be a lap of the Barcelona Catalunya circuit. What is it going to be across line? It's going to be a 15.5 for Harv on his banker lap time. I said a 1:17 was good. He's already broken that by 1.5 seconds. Incredible stuff. Mitch as well on his outlap on the medium tyre, the yellow wall medium tyre, as a couple more people are now filtering into their laps. 16.3 for Folksy, who, if you didn't see, actually won the Formula 2 feature race on Monday, which was great to see. Cyberspace getting himself into the top 3 as well on the medium compound tyre. Mitch, let's see what he can do. A very, very quick reserve. Usually commentates with me alongside in the commentary box, but is out there on track. We'll have to see how he fares after a couple of weeks off and on the sidelines. Apparently purple to the first sector, but that is definitely not true. He's a few tenths down on what Harv did. Still a few tenths down on a 15.5 is not bad at all, and considering he's on the medium tyre, running number 14, so just like Fernando Alonso. All very wide for the McLaren there, who I believe was, I believe that is Ben, who I haven't actually seen before, so maybe a newcomer to the league, and we'll have to see how he fares tonight. 49.9 to the middle sector for Mitch. Very, very hooked up on this lap. Could easily break the 16s if he can keep it clean through turn 12, which goes a little bit scruffy, but still manages to bring it back rather nicely. And then into turn 13. Harv now back into the pits. Here's Mitch. Is he going to end his lap on a high? Just completely send it. Doesn't get on the power as efficiently as he'd have liked. Going to have to maximise the throttle pedal all the way down towards the line. And what is it going to be? It's going to be a 16.3, almost matching the time of Folksy. Just a little bit off, but considering Folksky's on the soft compound tyre, I'm sure Mitch is not going to be too displeased with that. Less than a second off Harv, despite being on the slower tyre. Just needs to make sure he can move out of the way of the racing point. He's now coming off. He's going to take the Grosjean line. Max into P4 on the medium compound tyre. Only a 0.003 of a second off Mitch. So the big boys really, really close when it comes to pace. And Max usually does pole it. He's very, very quick when it comes to qualifying. Now setting up a second lap. Charged up his batteries, went a little bit slower for a second installation lap after his first one, and now going to see what he can do. Can he improve? Is this just a banker lap time? Probably won't want to start a race on very, very old tyres. Makes a little bit of a scruffy mistake through turn 1, brings it back. That's going to compromise him through turn 3, but still completely and utterly flat. Brings it all the way to the left-hand side. Max wants to maximise this curve. Brake as you hit that Pirelli board. Goes purple to the first sector. Not quite true, but he's still 0.08 of a second up on his own time. 0.07, I should say more specifically, coming through turn 5, opening up the corner through turn 6, which isn't really much of a turn, and then coming towards turn 7, clips the grass going in, wants to make sure we can use that undulation without unsettling the car, and then chucking it through turn 9, very, very fast with that 170 miles an hour as he hits the apex. And that is a pretty tight corner, in all honesty. 700ths up on his time. This could put him ahead of Mitch and into the top 3. Looking very, very good and very, very hooked up. Still waiting for a couple more people to cross the line and start the lap. That is some gravel kicked up from what I believe is that the Haas or a Williams or something. I couldn't quite catch the livery there. I believe it's an Alfa Romeo actually. I was well off when it came to that. Bit of a scram from Max though as he comes off the final corner. Not the most ideal way to take that. It's going to be a little bit slower, but a track experience and track acclimatization is all he needs at this stage in qualifying, and I'm sure he's going to go out on a set of soft compound tyres. Excuse me. Jim breaks the boundaries though. Well, 1:15.5 on the medium compound tyre. We saw in Formula 2 he was absolutely rapid around this track in qualifying, nearly took pole by 0.8 of a second. He takes provisional pole on the medium compound tyre, so has some incredible pace, really taking the front foot forward on these mediums. And it seems like Catalonia is one where he really does like. Didn't win either race though when it came to Formula 2. That was down to inconsistency and luck. So hopefully he's learned from his mistakes and can carry it a little bit more fluently through today. And Jim can definitely do the Swans proud. In 10.7 just on his cool down lap now. I think he's pretty chuffed with that lap. That did go very well for him. Who else have we got out on a lap? Let's go on board with Ben. Well, we haven't seen much of him. We also got Harv and Foskey both not happy with Jim taking his provisional pole there on the mediums. He probably doesn't even have to set another lap time. He's probably pretty content with that and will be happy to end the session as it is. But we'll have to see. I mean, the Renaults are both looking good. Mitch and Jim both on in some good positions. And Mitch actually really well up there despite being a reserve. Not having the track experience compared to some of these guys. The Alfa Romeo broke Gorilla, very quick and competent driver as well in the Alfa Romeo, very quick again through there. Currently sits P9 and he's on his soft compound tyre lap. Go to what is fitted. So coming now through turn 11 into 12. Again, just got to hook it round, keep it nice and steady, get on the power as nice as you can. Don't run out too wide. That gravel trap is very lethal coming towards turn 13 and into 14. Just got to hit the apex, hit that inside curb. Very nice nose cam, really gives you a perspective of the speed and the undulation. Clips the curb on the inside. That is very wide from the Alfa Romeo though. Surely invalidated his lap time, but he's going to back off and not want to improve on his time with that one. And understandably so, does not want that to be representative of his time, of course. If you don't know, the rule is that you have to start the race. If you start in the top 10, that is, if you qualify within the top 10, you have to start the race on whatever tyre you set your fastest lap in qualifying on. So if that happens to be, if you set the lap on some fresh mediums per se, they're 1 lap old, you set your fastest lap, but then go on to do say 20 odd more and you really burn those tyres up, you're going to have to start the race on those tyres nonetheless. It is compulsory, as Folsky does invalidate his lap through turn 8. But most of you already know that anyway, because we're all seasoned Formula 1 fans. But if you are new and you are new to the channel and want to get into Formula 1, that is what happens. If you qualify in the top 10, you have to start the race on whatever tyre you qualify on. So it is a very big key factor when it comes to strategy, and that is also why P11 could be a very good position for a high midfield position as well, because Callum Jones at the moment will have the free choice of tyre. He can choose whatever tyre he wants to start the race on, and we'll have the optimal strategy. We'll have fresh and optimal tyres for the race. Kieran Rees on a pretty good lap, it seems, to go very quick to the first sector, rocking the number 87. Very nice number to run, it must be said, through turn 15 on to 16. DRS wide open and across the line. What's it going to be? It's going to be a 16.2. Put some provisional P4. Very nice lap. And is this maxed down in P8? Yes, indeed it is. Not something we often see the youngster do. Let's see if he can improve on these soft compound tyres, because that medium lap didn't really suit him very well. He was up on it at some point, but didn't seem to hook the lap up all too well when it came to the timing line. But he's on the softs, the red mark soft tyre, which again, if you don't know, are the quickest tyre, but the softer rubber does degrade a lot faster. And of course the hard tyre, the white wall tyre, is something you probably won't often see in qualifying, but it's white wall. It is the slowest but the most efficient and the longest duration of tyre, so you can take those hard tyres as pretty much very long into the race. and they won't degrade as much, and it'll definitely be a slower drop off. If you plot it on a graph, it'd be a slower drop off to the cliff. But to the left hand side then is Max coming down towards turn 1. Really wants to improve upon his time, not something we often see him down in P9, so let's see if he can improve. Flat through turn 3, completely pinned to the floor is that throttle pedal, and he brings it all the way over to the left hand side. 6 minutes now left, goes for a 21.1, not quite as quick as the likes of Harv or Jim up in front. Maybe Spain isn't quite the match for Max, but he's still definitely on a good lap, and he's got 2 more sectors to try and prove his worth as he comes towards turn 7. Really got to chuck it in again, use that undulation, don't want to cut too much. Very nicely done, very clean line from Max, a little bit twitchy on the steering wheel, but almost flat through turn 9, kept it pinned. He's going to get a little bit of a tow from the Ferrari in front of Cyberspace, who currently sits P3, now 4 tenths and purple to the middle sector of 49.3. very nicely done, and let's see what lap this is going to be well into the 15s through turn 12. Hook it up, keep it tight, get on the power as much as you can, don't run wide, very nicely through there, and then just chuck it into turn 13, brake as soon as you're straight, bring it over, clip that inside curb, clip that inside curb, get on the power. A little bit of a squirm from Max, not something you want to do, but completely flat through turn 16. DRS wide open, what's it going to be? It's going to be a 15.3. incredible stuff from Max to get him into a provisional pole position. 2 tenths clear, just over 2 tenths clear, 2.01 tenths clear of Jim, who is in P2, but set his lap time on medium tyres, so he's going to go onto the softs maybe and improve his time, but he might want to sit on the mediums and just see what he can do. Brett Gorilla down in P13. Benjamin as well hasn't been able to improve, currently sits on an 18.3. Chris as well is also yet to set a lap time. Very dangerous grounds then. He's stretching in some very dangerous water and on some very, very thin ice. He needs to get this lap sorted out. Chris is very competent and is very, very good at hooking the lap up when it counts. And being there, making his own luck, as we see when he did win, I believe, at some point this season. Just put himself in that prime position, got himself up there and did a very, very good job to do so. Let's see what he can do when it comes to the qualifying game though. Short Marcus up to P4 as well. Some great times and some very, very close times, in fact, going up there. Jim and Harv separated by virtually nothing. Short Marcus only a few hundredths of a second behind. Cyberspace only half a tenth behind that. And then a little bit more of a drop off down to Paul Harrison. But Mitch, he just needs, hopefully, I'm guessing for Mitch, he just wants Chris to drop him out of that top 10. I mean, that'd be definitely a very good strategical standpoint if he can get himself just outside that top 10, as I was alluding to earlier. But let's see what Chris can do then, all the way to the outside, really pushing the limit of that Williams. What's it going to be to the first sector? 21.6. Not the best, not the worst, definitely going to be up there in the midfield if he can hook it up, but it is very, very tight. Keeping it tight again, running to the outside, very nicely done. Again, use the undulation, really maximises it for him. Just really, really easy to unsettle the car through there. Braking 50.2, about a second off the top runners. So a second off the top runners at the moment would put him around about P9. So he's probably aiming for around about a P11 position at the moment. A bit more cautious, and he hasn't really left himself much flexibility when it comes to time here. He might just get one more in, but if he gets himself into the top 10, he doesn't really want to compromise his tyres anymore. Goes into P12, a 16.6, not at all a bad lap, but not at all an optimal one either. A couple of people retiring from the session. Max on an out lap as well as Harv, and interestingly Jim's still in the pit lane, maybe waiting a little bit later, but waiting for a few people to, you know, get the track a little bit more rubbered in. Of course, the track does get quicker as the session goes on. When they're going around at 200 miles an hour, the friction, the lateral G-forces really rips the tyres, well, the rubber off the tyres off, and when they get pinned down onto the racetrack, that is some fresh grip. That is nice, grippy layers of of surface for the cars to go over, so it really does help him. And over the course of, you know, the session, in the dry, in the wet, it's slightly different. That rubber then becomes slippery, and you want to take different lines. It's what's called the karting line. They go on the outside as opposed to it, but we've not got a wet session here just yet. But those black lines on the track really are grippy and really does improve as the session goes on. Through turn 16 then, Max for the final time will cross the line. Timed it just to perfection to not get another lap, or if he wants to, he can get another lap. But now coming towards turn 1 for the final time. 100 board looking out for it. That little bit of a drop on there where it goes to pavement. Oh, and Max has spun through turn 2. Very easy mistake to do. Going backwards into the wall. Nearly just about going to recover that one, but he's not going to have time to get round. He's just stuck stationary. He's bottled his final lap, and let's just hope it was good enough, because if Harv gets another lap in, which he hasn't because he hasn't validated it, needs to back off, maybe go for another one. Short Marcus as well could be one to watch, because he's not that far off and really can improve. The Mercedes driver has improved over the course of the season, and on some fresh soft tyres could be deadly around Catalonia. Side of space as well, very close to Short Marcus. These two very, very crucial to get their lap in. Side of space is going to be looking to get his lap in. Looks like this is more of a botch lap, is it? I'm not entirely sure. He's going to get the power on. He's going to run a little bit wide. He might have invalidated his next lap as well, but he is going to get another lap importantly across the line. It would have been a 15.8. So wouldn't have improved his time. Harv also there. He may have invalidated there. Going over to Wimax. He hasn't invalidated, luckily for him. Short Marcus kicking up a little bit of dust through turn 4. Down the hill towards turn 5. Bit of a lock up there on the front left. Just goes to show how much he is pushing though. And then towards turn 7, Jim is going to stay stationary. His best lap time was on the medium, so he's going to be probably the best position of the bunch at the front. And he's got some serious pace, just needs to keep it consistent. Max retired, he currently sits P1. Short Marcus does go very quick to that middle sector though. Could compromise him if he gains a little bit more time through this final sector. Maybe even get himself onto the front row. But will it be enough to topple Max? He needs a couple more tenths maybe just to secure it as well. Side of space close behind, but it doesn't look like he's on a very good lap. It's all down to Short Marcus as he comes through the final corner. Completely flat, make it as short as distance as possible. DRS open as a little punch to the line. Is it going to be pole? No, just off pole, just under a tenth off. Short Marcus though locks out the front row, but Harv, no, in fact does go quicker with a 14.984. What an incredible lap from the Racing Point. Astonishing to knock Marcus off the front row and to knock Max off pole position, and there is no one else that can compromise this. Harv is going to be starting on pole, but on some compromised tyres, which could definitely play a massive factor. So 3 people within the top 10 on the medium tyres. They're going to be the ones to look out for as they bid to make the alternate strategy work, which is usually the way to go around Catalonia, but anything can happen. Safety car, carnage, anything. So it's definitely going to be a pure race of attrition. Got to stay consistent to get to the end of the race. And we've got a 36 lap race ahead of us. So Harv takes pole. And Harv does indeed take pole, 3 tenths clear of Max, who locks out the front row, and Short Marcus and Little Jim will be making up the second row, but Jim on the mediums, that's going to be something to look out for. Side of space in P5 with Paul Harrison P6, Kieran Rees in P7, Paul Harrison sandwiched between the 2 Welsh guys, and then the Scotsman of Foskey right behind him P8. Lou rounds in P9, and Mitch rounding off the top 10. Crowix in P11 will be probably in the best midfield position of the bunch, getting that fresh and optimal tyre. Wimax in P12, Chris P13, Broke Gorilla in P14, Golden Wolf P15, Callum Jones in 16th, debutee of Benjamin in P17, and Barocco not setting a lap time in P18. So that is going to be the grid locked out and finalised for the race here at the Spanish Grand Prix for the Formula 1 guys on a Friday evening. The last Friday, of course, before my birthday. So as I said earlier, if you feel free to PayPal me 25p, I would appreciate the Freddo. But it is looking pretty overcast over the, well, in the skies of Catalonia. Very, very overcast. Did not want to rain for these guys. Maybe that is part of the reason as to why Jim went for the medium tire. Maybe to prolong his strategy to the rain. Who knows? We'll have to just wait and see. But maybe Max and Jim, or I should say Max and Harv, decided to go for the softs because they knew the rain was coming sooner. Who knows? We'll have to see what the next 36 laps bring. Maybe it'll clear up. But certainly massive championship implications. Max pretty much dominating the championship as it stands, but anything can change, and we still got a long way to go in the championship, all the way to July and to the start, I believe, of the new game. So still definitely all to play for as we go green for the formation lap, and it's a 33 lap race. My sincere apologies there. But Harv will lead them around the formation lap. You can see some sun starting to break between the cloud lines there. So maybe it will clear up towards the end, but it is still very doom and gloom. So the predicted pit stop strategy then, soft, medium, medium, or soft, medium, hard. F1 Insights powered by AWS, giving us a nice little insight into the strategy people might be taking. We'll have a quick look at the tyres outside the top 10, and it is pretty much clean sweep, all of them on the mediums. Just goes to show that it is a very medium, predominantly medium dominated grid, and the strategy is just incredibly quicker on the mediums, not having to stop extra or be on the softs or whatever it might be. So those guys outside the top 10 definitely going to be people to look out for. Jim as well inside the top 10 with some great pace in qualifying, and still up there despite being on the medium, so we'll have to see what he can do. But do expect that some of these guys do start to fall off. Maybe they have got the pace to mitigate the difference between the strategies, but it is going to be hard. You can see Harv really backing up the pack now. Jim probably wants to control his own little fiasco behind, maybe make the guys in front of him have some slightly colder tyres, because he's going to be on the disadvantaged medium tyres off the start. Do not give as much grip, and you can see Harv really backing these guys up. Max just wants to get going. He's going to overtake him and drive his way to the grid. Does not want to be playing any games at all, but Harv is going to wait back, warm his tyres up, and then line himself up on the grid ahead of 33 laps of this, well, pretty, let's say, beloved circuit. Lining up on the grid then is Harv, going to take the prime position. It's a very long one towards turn 1, just over a kilometre, so the likes of Jim and Marcus could both get involved with the slipstream if they really put their mind to it. Just waiting for a few more people to line up, the likes of Barocco, Ben and Callum at the back of the grid. And we'll have to see what the next 33 laps will bring us as we wait for the green light and the green flag at the back of the grid. And the 5 red lights will illuminate your screen. Everyone gets lined up. Here we go. The green flag has been waved. Just waiting for the 5 red lights. Hopefully, here we go then. They are revving up the cars. We go to 5 red lights ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. We've been held for ages, but we are finally underway and racing, and it's a great start from Max. He's already pulled alongside the Racing Point now, coming towards turn 1. They are nearly 4 abreast at the back side of space, trying to funnel his way through up the inside of short Marcus. A great start for the Ferrari, but Max is going to take the lead on the inside. The Mercedes going around the outside of the Ferrari. They're still going to run side by side, coming towards turn 3. The Ferrari just going to have to concede, but still a great start, and up to P4 as he runs very wide, nearly into the back of the Mercedes. That's going to give Jim a little run on his medium tyre. Back up the inside where we saw Lewis and Nico come together. Jim up the inside then very nicely to hold on to his P4 position, and it's all kicking off, but Max takes the lead. Defensive goes Marcus. There's been a safety car. There's been a crash towards the back. Ben and Golden Wolf have come together. Something has happened through turn 3, and something has happened on the exit of turn 4, and Mitch has been given a 5-second time penalty for collision with Lou, but the safety car already out there. What implications will this have? Will people dare come into the pits? Has anyone picked up some damage further back down? Has there been any major position changes? Not really. I mean, the most down is 6, and that is from Kieran Rees. The most up is 4, and that's from Brake Gorilla and from Callum Jones as well. Barocco up 3 because of the 2 retirements. The rest either staying stationary or only gaining 1 or 2. So will anyone take this opportunity to come in? I mean, the pack is still very bunched up. You're going to lose a lot of time if you pit. And still having to battle your way up. probably worth they're just going to stay out and then prolong their stint, because obviously you're going slower, so you don't actually use up as much of the tyre. So a couple of people did decide to pit. Paul, Harrison, Fosky and Kieran all deciding to pit, maybe for a new front ring. Yeah, that's really going to be their saving grace. Plopping that new front ring on, giving them that extra downforce that they need. Fosky going on to the white wall hard tyres, what I said in qualifying, the longest durating tyre and the longest lifespan of the three. And Kieran going on to the medium tyre to stay with his original strategy of coming in around about lap 15, I'd say. Maybe lap 14, 15 would be a reasonable time to pit on the medium tyres. But Max with a great start, got himself ahead of Harv and really proved that he had some pace and wanted to get himself going. He proved it on the formation lap when he just drove past, and an incredible start from the youngster. And Jim as well in P4 and looking feisty. But will this safety car help the soft runners out? It can help prolong their stint. If we're lucky, the safety car may be in this lap, but I'm not going to be too sure about it. I think it'll be one more lap because the McLaren is still trying to catch up, and then it'll give the chance to say that they're allowed to come in. So definitely one more lap. So yeah, just going to wait one more lap under the safety car. But guys, do remember, if you are enjoying watching this stream, do make sure to give it a like and a comment and subscribe and all of that good jazz, because yeah, it really does go a long way in supporting. We have now gotten past the 400 subscriber mark, so thank you all so much for that and for the continued support. And of course, big thank you to OBF1 for having me and allowing me to commentate on some great races. It's an incredible league with some great, clean and fast drivers. So if it does seem like something you'd like to get yourself involved in, do make sure to give any of the admins a message on Discord or wherever. You can definitely find us some places, and hopefully we can see some of you on the grid if you have been attracted by the stream, and hopefully for bigger and better things in the future. So do make sure to give Pete or anyone of the sort a message, and I'm sure we can find some good space for you here. Great bunch of lads, great community, not at all toxic like you see with the with some other types of leagues. Not to name and shame, that can't really name and shame, but some definitely do have the toxicity of when things go bad. Just turns to toxicity as opposed to a reasonable and grown-up solution. At the end of the day, it is pretend race cars. It's a lot of fun, so these guys treat it like that. Still got that competitive fire to keep it burning in them, and they do want to win, but at the end of the day, they do recognise that things happen, so prefer not to be toxic about it, which is always good. Safety car is going to be in this lap though, so Max knows his job. He's been in this scenario probably 100 billion times. He becomes the effective safety car, can back up the pack as much as he likes, as long as it's a reasonable pace. Just needs to let the safety car get a gap, warm up the tyres, give themselves that optimal restart. Really can back them up now, wait for the safety car light to go off, and then that's when he is allowed to punch it. Between now and the timing line the safety car is in, how much is he going to back him up? You can see really backing the pack up all the way to the timing line. He's allowed to do it, doesn't want to leave it too late. He's punched it, and we're back under green flag racing. It's a pretty good restart then from Max, but Harv right behind, back under green flags, and Harv in the slipstream looking to reclaim the race lead. He's all over the back of him using his overtake. He wants to get this back. Max to the inside, Harv to the outside, down into turn one. Is he going to go for it around the outside? Just going to have to tuck in, unfortunately. Maybe set up a cutback look to the outside of turn three. Max holds on, but Sean Mark is right behind, and Jim as well, putting the pressure on these guys if they don't get it all cleanly and get it all right. Is there any fights going on further back? It looks as though Mitch has found himself up a couple of places, but with a 5-second penalty to contend with, is not going to be looking pretty. And eventually Jim's tyres will come into their own, so just needs to stay with him. No DRS, of course, until around about, I believe, to be lap 7. But Harv sticking with Max, then it is going to be a very close fight between the two. Goes a little bit wide through turn 8, and he's going to be all over the back. We're going to have another look maybe down towards turn 10. if he can get the drive off turn 9 and have a look. He doesn't look to be quite close, so they all try and concertina their way through on this first restart lap. Is there anything happening further back? There's an absolute audacious send from Lou. He does not get that stopped. Mitch is going to have his heart in his mouth after that one, but he's going to have to rejoin Lou. Going to lose a couple of places. The Alfa Romeo around the outside of Broker. They're going to look for it, but not quite be able to get it. So Mitch up into P6, Cyberspace up into P5. Very nicely done from those guys to get an optimal start. And we got Max on the back of, or Max in front of Harvey. He's now going to be coming down the pit straight one more time. Max 1:19.5 sets the fastest lap off the restart. Is Harv going to be able to challenge down towards turn 1? Doesn't quite look like he is going to be able to. There's a couple of bit of fighting going on further back. Is this Kieran Rees on Voski? Yes, it is. It's a nice bit of racing. Kieran Rees to the inside, and they're going to be 3 abreast down towards turn 1. And it looks as though Kieran Rees is going to keep it to the inside. Look to the outside of the AlphaTauri. Is it going to be the inside of turn 3? Just going to back out the Haas, looking to follow him through. And it looks as though Fosi is just going to be pushed wide by the Haas, who's now looking on the inside. Should get it into turn 4, and that should be a pretty comfortable move, done and dusted for him. Spreading out a little bit, Max stretching his legs and trying to fly away, but with XD, little Jim really breathing down Marcus's neck, really putting the pressure on him, and Marcus will be looking behind, sweating like an old man in a strip club with the pressure of Jim, a very, very quick driver. And with him breathing down your neck on tyres that are slowly going to start coming into their own, it is not a pretty sight to have as we end lap 5. We'll get DRS maybe to the start of this lap or the start of next lap. But he's got a lot of ERS buckled up. Doesn't get the best of starts off turn 15, but still look pretty good as Max sets the fastest lap once again on 1:19.1. Some incredible pace. Mitch GK on the back of Cyberspace. DRS has been enabled, so they will have the drag reduction system, the rear wing flap opening to give them that extra 20 kph down the back straight, and that should definitely help propel them up the grid and make a few more overtakes. Jim with some very consistent pace though. You can see only 600s down to the first sector. The slipstream really helping him behind this Mercedes. Cyberspace just off this pack, so Mitch may be able to get himself in front because Cider does not have the DRS to defend, with XD now wanting to get through on the Mercedes. Really going to put the pressure on him. Marcus going to have the DRS of Harv in front, who's now fallen out of the DRS of Max, who's really started to pull away. So it looks like it's a 3-horse race now for P2, and Max up at the front, really dominating as he usually does. Just needs to keep it consistent. And now Jim, probably the worst of the bunch because he's not going to have to get past the guy in front. To get past the guy in front, he needs to really start pushing because Marcus does have the DRS. But he's going to start closing on Harvey. He's going to look to the inside, but he can't quite find the space, so he's going to go to the outside. He's going to have the overspeed, swoops around the outside, cleanly done up into P2, goes a little bit deep, but Harv just going to not be able to put on enough of a challenge, and going to run very, very wide, so Mitch may be able to look to gobble this up towards turn 4. And Harv a little bit shaky as well, so Jim is going to want to start gobbling this up. Mitch as well going to want to get past Cyberspace. The two Renaults finding their way through the field on the same medium compound strategy. But Marcus, every lap that Jim is behind Harv is a lap that Marcus is allowed to pull away, so he needs to get through quickly. He's going to have the DRS. Down towards turn 12, or turn 11 I should say. And apologies for any background noise again. They all decide to come into my room as soon as I'm busy, but we can't help that. Still a 3-car train though. Harv has stayed in the DRS of Marcus, but is it going to be enough to defend from Jim, who is really pushing? He ghosts there, does Harv a little bit, and going to pull into the pit lane on his soft compound tyres. So that is Jim cleanly up a place. Don't know exactly what happened there, but Mitch on the back of Cyberspace. Surely this is going to be the move done. Cyberspace conserving his ERS. To the inside goes Mitch. Should be a pretty plain sailing move with overtake. Deactivates it before the corner. Cleanly ahead before the braking zone. Can take the racing line, and that is Mitch up into P4 with 5-second penalty to contend with, of course. Chris on the back of Broke Ruler can't quite do much into turn 1. Kieran on a charge as well. Is that Crowwick's going around the outside of the racing point? Goes through him. Again, very strange, but Jim, now his tyres are coming into their own. They are beginning to be a little bit quicker. Mitch picking himself up a 3-second time penalty as well. So that's going to bring his total up to 8 seconds, which really, really will not help him. Jim so close to the back of Marcus under the brakes for turn 11. And will Marcus come into the pits this lap? That is the question. Because those softs must be dying, but Max still setting some good pace. Is Marcus coming in? No, he's going to stay out another lap. These guys really stretching these soft tyres very, very long into the race, but will Jim finally get through? It looks as though he is closing Max into the pit lane, so this is the fight for the race lead. Jim cleanly up in front, uses his ERS, and it's now a Renault 1-3, and Mitch closing as well. These medium tyres really, really coming quick. So where is Max going to come out? He does not want to come out in some traffic. It looks as though he might get away with it with some clean air. He might be behind the racing point of Harv though, and Harv jumped him? No, he's just going to become right behind Barocco, but Harv definitely going to be right there, looking to close the gap maybe onto the man he was fighting for the race lead a few laps ago on lap 9 of 33, so approaching the third way mark. Bit of a lock up from Kieran Rees as he got Paul Harrison breathing down his neck, and with it Fosky as well breathing down his neck. So still a 3-car train going on. Nice little midfield battle as per usual. Always a nice midfield battle that goes on. Chris on the back of Broke Gorilla as well. The medium runner still yet to pit. Short Mark is the only soft runner to have not pitted. He's lost 1.8 seconds to Jim this lap alone, and has lost a lot of time to Mitch as well. So just goes to pose the question, when is he going to get through, as Max now starting to cut his way through the field, down the brakes, down and towards turn 11, so probably a very, very easy move for him to make, as he's now onto the back of Crowds as Jim sets the fastest lap, now starting to spread his wings like a swan and take off with a 1:18, I believe, the only person yet to dip into the 1:18s. Indeed, a 1:18.3, incredible pace. Here comes Max though. Yeah, it should be a pretty easy overtake for him to make there. Crowds deciding not to fight that one too hard, so fair play to him there. Good racecraft showing. Paul Harrison still on the back of Kieran Rees, but just couldn't quite convert. Short Mark is now behind Mitch, and Short Mark is really, really stretching these soft tyres out. Is he going to gain enough when he comes into the pits with those fresh mediums? I'm not too convinced, because he's losing a lot of time on these old tyres. So is the strategy going to work from Broke Gorilla picking himself up 3 seconds? But as it stands, it's a Renault 1-2, but how long that stands for is another story. But Max has committed to a 2-stop on those mediums. Still a 4-car train for P7. Callum Jones, Kieran, Paul Harrison and Fosky still having it out. Harv getting himself up the inside of Crowix as well, so on a charge of his own, but 2.3 seconds back on the man in P11, but that is Short Marcus finally into the pit lane. God knows when he was going to come in. Really was prolonging it, but here is Kieran Rees in the slipstream of the Mercedes, and he got his house right behind him. Max going even quicker, an 18.2 on his fresh tyres. Still only a 10th quicker than Jim, because Jim has got some incredible race pace. Learned from his mistakes in Formula 2 and carried it up into Formula 1. Bit twitchy from the McLaren. Paul Harrison still putting the pressure on, but running a little bit wide. Oh no, Paul Harrison, he's gone round. Oh, Max has to try and avoid him, and that is going to be Paul Harrison backwards into the gravel. Just pushed on that a little bit too much. You could see that coming from a country mile. Just about going to get his way underway and going, I should say. But it looks as though he's got away from that scot-free. Oh, don't want to jinx it though. Very sideways off that corner. So Paul Harrison, yeah, just looks like the dirty air's heated his tyres up too much, and he's gone round again, and he's in the wall, and he's retired from the race, and that is going to be a safety car, which could really play into the hands of Jim, who doesn't even hesitate to come into the pits. You can see Mitch backing off to try and give him the gap to come into the pits as well. Do not want to double stack over at Renault. Mitch really backing off to prevent this. But Jim into the pit lane then. What tyres is he going to go on to? Hards? Probably, yep. Easily onto the hards. But on, is Mitch going to have the gap? He's got more than enough time. And they should have his tyres ready by the time they get there. So the medium runners are really going to have it played into their hands. Where is Max going to come out in respect to Jim? Jim are cleanly up in front. Foski, who hasn't... he has pitted actually. He's onto the hard compound tyre. Hasn't decided to pit under the safety car. But Mitch, after his penalties, comes out P9. But it's definitely going to be mitigated a lot more than had he stayed out. And he's up into P8. So still great and a lot of potential. He has shown some good pace side by side. Is short Marcus and Lou. They're going to fight it out under the safety car. But is the Mercedes going to have the position? Yes, he is. So Jim leads then. He pits and comes out still in the lead after the safety car. So Paul Harrison really helping out Jim, and not at all helping out his teammate of Max, who was probably the one he wanted to help out, but didn't quite play out. Maybe if he'd have just done it, waited a couple of laps, and in fact if Marcus would have come out a lap later, he could have been in a good position. But did Marcus go for an extra stop? No, he come in onto the hard tyres. Which is very interesting. So the second safety car of the night then, and we're on lap 12 of 33. Still a long way to go in this race. No one has won it yet. So, been a pretty interesting race so far. Not necessarily in terms of on-track action, but certainly in terms of... actually, no, the on-track action has not at all been bad. We've had some good overtakes, which isn't usual at Catalonia. Is folks going to come in? Is anyone going to come in on the second lap onto the safety car? Everyone's pretty bunched up, so surely only going to get one more lap. So you can see Max weaving around. Probably don't want to weave around too early, because that may just put some unnecessary wear into the tyres. The tyres are going to cool off anyway. You might want to just prolong the warming up stage until probably the end of the safety car period. It's important to have the temperature in your tyres though, so just probably doing it as a precaution. And is going to have the fresher tyres, so these mediums should be quicker than the hards, even at this stage in the race. We'll just have to wait and see. But Jim, as I was saying, has been put into a very good position. Those mediums is what I was saying. Those mediums can really be helped out by a safety car midway through their stint, in fact. And this is probably around the time Jim was going to be pitting anyway. So he's been really helped out here and jumped Max. And he's even got the car of Foski in between them, so he can start stretching his legs a little bit earlier if he really wanted to. And I'm going to imagine safety car in this lap. Indeed, safety car is in this lap. So Jim has been through the procedure similar to Max. He's been through it hundreds of times. He knows what to do. You can see already back in the pack up. Really weaving him around. You can see 50 miles an hour going slow. Slower than an old lady on a dual carriageway, you could say. Because, yeah, well, yeah, some very slow pace. Weaving around, getting the final bit of temperature into the tyres. Really running a high rake setup there is the Renault. You can see how much that dips down. Creates a nice pocket of low pressure air to help suck down the car. You can see a lot of cars do that. The Renault, the Red Bull, a lot of them, he has punched it, and he has punched it early, and Foski's actually got a really good restart compared to him, so he could be under pressure. We're already darting to the inside half on the back of Max as well as you go green once again. Jim breaking the slipstream. Is half going to put some pressure on Max. He's using his overtake, but he's not quite going to be able to get there. Foski maybe putting some pressure onto Jim into turn one. Just going to have to sit behind though, but Foski with some good pace. Max with some good pace as well needs to get through on Foski as quick as possible, otherwise Jim is going to start stretching his legs and maybe pull a gap. The two Ferraris going side by side through turn 3. Incredible bit of racing between the two. He's going to dart to the inside. Is he going to get the move done? Look to the outside, maybe swoop around. Back to the front though. Max down the inside of Foski. Should get it done. Bit of a lock up. Doesn't quite get it stopped. The Racing Point looking back up the inside. It's going to be a great move to pull off. Great opportunistic move from that. Max really pushing his way through, and Harv squeezing his way through a tiny gap that was created from Max going through. But Jim has pulled away a 1 second lead because of Max getting through on Volsky. So Jim with some great pace, really trying to stretch his legs. Volsky on the back of Harv as well. Does want to try and stay with these guys. He does still need to pit in this race, and if he does take these tyres to the end, then very much fair play to him. But it is going to be tricky. Short Marcus did have some good pace as well. Maybe got a little bit caught out by the safety car. Maybe one more lap he might have had a good position. But he's on the back of Crowix, the Mercedes versus the AlphaTauri coming down this straight. No DRS, of course. Similar to the first safety car, he is closing, but is it closing enough? Looks to the inside, but more just to spot his braking point. Broke Gorilla under pressure, or putting the pressure onto Chris. Just ain't quite going to be able to send it. Bit of contact between the two. Is that some damage maybe to the front wing of the Alfa Romeo? Could definitely be a possibility. He does run very wide, so maybe some damage. That is going to invite the McLaren of Kieran up the inside. The Alfa Romeo tries to squeeze him. He's going to swoop around the outside. This is only for P11, but it's some great racing. He's been topped off onto the gravel. Oh no, that big spin between the two would have collected Barocco as well, but luckily managed to get away with that. Broke Gorilla trying to swoop around the outside. Just a tad bit of contact between the two, and that is going to bring out the yellow flags. Not a fuel course yellow though, luckily for us. Here comes Short Marcus. Is he on the back of Crowx? Enough maybe. Too short of a straight down towards turn 10 to pose much of a challenge. And another yellow flag through sector 2, not the best. Max not really making much indents into Jim, but DRS has been enabled and he's done enough. He is within the DRS and it is closing. And of course on the fresher tyres should be okay. And Short Marcus finally getting past Crowix, and Crowix still under pressure from the Ferrari. He's going to swoop around the outside, have the inside for turn 2. Another safety car being brought out in this Grand Prix. Very strange stuff. What has happened? Broke Gorilla has crashed at the turn 13 into 14 chicane. Something has happened. But that is going to be another safety car brought out. 3 safety cars, and it looks as though that's going to be 1 every 5 laps on average. Can hardly get any green flag racing going. But yeah, this is going to halt. Oh, I have dropped the HUD. That is going to halt Jim's advance, or well, Max's advance on Jim, and help Jim prolong the stint. And it is going to actually help Max prolong his stint, but will eventually have to pit. It's not going to be enough for him to stretch those mediums to the end of the race. So who is going to pit under this one? Probably the likes of maybe Foski or Co like that. Max into the pit lane actually, and Harv also going to follow him in. So these two making their second stop, probably to a set of hard compound tyres, I would imagine, to get them cleanly to the end. Maybe mediums could get to the end. Not too entirely convinced. Maybe Harv will bite the bullet and go for some mediums. No, he's going for some hards. Is Max strapping on some hard compound tyres? No. No, yeah, he is strapping on some hard compound tyres. Max picks up 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Will Mitch get the jump? No, he's actually coming himself. He's going to strap on the yellow walled medium tyres. So very different strategies going on. Mitch confident he can take those tyres to the end. Will be around about, what that be, 3:10, about 16 laps on the mediums. Probably is going to be, would be possible in fact. We'll have to wait and see what he can do. Mitch very good at saving his tyres. And I'm going to get extremely tired if this race drags on any more than it needs to with all these safety cars and going slowly. So safety car going to lead us around one more lap. And we'll get going at the end of lap 18 on to 19. And this is where the race is really going to get interesting. Hopefully we can get to the end. We've only got 13 runners left, 5 of which, or well, 5 have already retired. We had 18 runners to begin with. Now with only 13, big chunk of the grid has retired. Which is unfortunate, but things do happen. Just one more So half a lap left under safety car. And it is now towards the end stage of the race, you could say, just past halfway now. Safety car is going to be in this lap, so Jim going to have to lead the way once more. So again, becomes the effective safety car, really going to be backing him up. Max down in P8, half down in P9, so Jim has a bit more of a relaxed job, just needs to control the pace up at front. And Short Marcus as well, just needs to try and stick with him. This is a very spicy race that hasn't been decided at all yet. And we go back under green flag racing. He has punched it, and he's punched it very, very early. Bit shaky coming off turn 16. Bit of a heart in the mouth moment there from Jim, but he gets a good restart ahead of Fotsky, ahead of Short Marcus, and it is a very, very spread out restart. Max wants to get off to a good start though. Callum Jones weaving around, trying to get some temperature into his tyres, but that's going to compromise his run. Callum Jones weaving around still. Is Max going to look to the inside? Does have a little bit of a look, but Harv more putting the pressure on behind, and Max needs to try and negotiate his way through, because Harv is going to put the pressure on Max and really want to get his way through. This is his only chance to get through. These guys probably need to work together more than anything, but here comes Max to the inside of turn 4, sends it up the inside, does not give one care in the world. The Williams, the Mercedes, almost expected to give him room, and Harv once again using Max as his barricade to try and get his way through. He followed him through when it came to Foskin. He's followed him through on the Mercedes once again, so very smart racecraft from the Racing Point, and Max on a bid to chase after the Williams, who was next up. And Short Marcus on the back of Fotsky. What is Mitch doing down in P10 as well? Again, someone we need to look out for on his medium tyre. Very wide for a couple of people back there. Hopefully we can get to the end of the race pretty cleanly. Fingers crossed and all that. Into turn 13. 14 and then 15, then 16. Callum Jones very, very sideways. Mitch needs to try and find his way through as quickly as possible. Here comes Callum, or I should say here comes Harv. Max on the back of Chris. Is he going to get it down towards turn 1? Looks a little bit far back, but never say never with Max. Does have a very big look to the inside. Bit of a lock up as he now comes through turn 1 and 2. Maybe going to set up the move he did a lap previously and go for it down in towards turn 4 and get himself up towards P6, but here comes Harv to the inside of Max, tries to get his way through, but Max shutting the door and holding on and braking late enough into turn 4 to hold off. But Harv does not want to be fighting with him, he needs to work with him, but then again this is his only opportunity to get through. Still dim and gloom, so rain is not out of the question just yet. Do not count it off, and the way this race is going, I would not count it off one bit. DRS has been enabled in one lap, or will be enabled in one lap, and Jim pulled out a 1.3 second gap. Very wide though, and that is going to compromise him. Is Max going to send it from this far back? Just not quite going to be able to do it. Side of space, Marcus and Fotsky will having a nice little tussle here. Yellow flash reset to 2. It looks as though Kieran's had an off. Max looking to the inside of Chris. Is he going to send it into turn 14? Not quite, but he is going to set it up. DRS has been enabled. Short Marcus on the back of Fotsky. He's closing. He's got the overtake. He's in the slipstream. Is he going to dummy to the inside? He's looking for it, but he's going to go to the outside. Is the Mercedes side by side with the Red Bull on the fresher compound tyre. Swoops around the outside. Almost takes the racing line. The Red Bull very, very squeezed. This side of space going to try and follow him through. No, he's not. But that is Short Marcus now with the car in between him and his closest rival. As well, Harv getting himself through on Chris as Max did into turn 1. He needs to get this done quickly to stay with him. Going to dart to the inside. Nice little switchback manoeuvre. Dart to the inside like Max did. But it's a bit of contact. The Williams trying to stick it around the outside. Just going to be forced off by the Racing Point. But he's coming back at him down the inside of turn 5. The Racing Point cutting him off though. And not having at all any mess abouts with that. I'm going to try and stay in front. Needs to stay in the DRS of Max to try and have any chance of overcoming him in this race. But Max may have not played the strategy too well. 3 seconds off the nearest car. It's Lou. So needs to get pushing. He's only got a few more laps left, or about 12 laps left, I should say. And Jim just controlling the pace up in front. 2.5 seconds clear. And on some very old medium tyres, probably will have to pit again. In the slipstream, in the DRS, folks, he has got a little bit to defend with inside of space. Doesn't have much to attack with, so he is going to hold on to the position as it stands. Fotsky doing very well to keep those hard tyres alive. If he takes those to the end, very, very fair play to him. Max slowly getting onto the back of Lou, slowly chipping away at the lead that he has, and Harv just staying in the DRS range of Max, who runs a little bit wide, but all okay it seems. Chucking it through turn 9 is Harv. Trying to stay with Max, who is now sub 2 seconds, and when it comes to his fight, trying to close up to the 2 Ferraris who have a nice little scrap, trying to get past the Red Bull and find themselves onto the podium. A little bit of a grassy moment from Lou though, and that is going to allow Max to slowly creep up behind. So Fotsky acting like a mobile chicane, keeping these guys behind very nicely, is allowing Max to close up, and that is going to be Sider into the pit lane and release Lou after Fotsky. Both on some old hard compound tyres, and will Fotsky take those to the end of the race? That'll be some astonishing driving if he can. Max nearly within the DRS range of Lou. He just needs to push through this first sector and he should get it. Through turn 3 is Harv sticking it with Max and slowly chipping away at these guys in front. The fight for the podium still on, and Fotsky somehow keeping those tyres alive. Nothing else really much to report, and we got Mitch on the back of Chris. Great race from him despite being at the back of the grid nearly. Around about the P10 mark, in fact, actually I should say. Still on the back of him. And Max has gotten in within the DRS train of these guys, so is now turning into a 3-horse and a 4-horse race, because Harv is in the DRS of Max, so he's really towed him along, and some very clever racecraft from Harv to just stay with Max. Is Mitch going to send it on? Correa's going to look for the cutback. He's got some much fresher tyres to use. Is he going to go for it? Probably not the best of overtaking opportunities. If he can keep it to the left, he might be able to send it, but it's not quite going to work as Fotsky comes into the pits, and probably wise of him to do so now. This is the fight for the podium. Max on the back of Lou. He's got the slipstream. He's got the DRS. Not got a lot of ERS to contend with, though. He's going to tuck back into the slipstream, pull to the outside. Is he going to dummy? No, he's not. He's going to swoop around the outside as Max. Be the inside for turn 2. Very nicely done. And the Ferrari doesn't have much to say about that, apart from maybe a little cheeky counter-attack towards turn 4 if he can keep it pinned through turn 3. He hasn't got a lot of ERS himself either, and Harv needs to get his way through, but Max with some great pace. 6 seconds off the lead, though. That may have cost him in terms of winning this race, but he can still definitely find himself on the podium, maybe getting himself after Short Marcus, who's 2.5 seconds in front. Short Marcus will want this P2 finish, though, and Harv will want to get himself onto the podium, so he's all over the back of Lou. trying to get a look into turn 9, but really just going to try and push him through, get the DRS, use his overtake, a little bit shaky over the bumps on the exit of turn 9, coming towards turn 10. Is he going to go for it down the brakes? Yes, he is. He's going to absolutely launch it up the inside. Bit of contact and halves being sent into a half spin. Lou did not allow him to pass there. An audacious send from the Racing Point, and a very, very fine stand of the ground from the Ferrari to hang on to P4. So Harv now on the back foot, needs to start chasing. There's Mitch on the inside of the Williams, who's going to leave him to drive around the outside, and Mitch going to have to back off and then think better of it, maybe, you know, bide his time and go for it a little bit later on, and down and towards turn 1 would be the optimal place to do it. So he is in the slipstream, he is in the DRS, yellow flags through sector 2. Kieran's had another off, but Mitch just hasn't got the drive to catch up to the Williams, who's got the ERS to defend with, but you can see really closes up in the corners. But Chris is just quick where he needs to be quick, and that is all that matters. He's quick on the exits, he's quick on the straights, and Mitch just can't find a way through. Harv now onto the back of Lou as well. Fight for P4. Are they equal when it comes to penalties? No, Harv has got 3, so needs to get through and then pull the gap. Lou a little bit wide, Harv a little bit shaky, going to go to the inside, should be a little bit less of a send this time, up the inside and up into P4 for the Racing Point. But no, the Ferrari has got another little look up his sleeve, has he? Going to back out of that one though. But Harv now, his mission is to try and creep back into the DRS of Max, and then try and pull a 3-second gap. Bit of a slide from Lou though. Very, very much Tokyo Drift, as Jim does go quickest with a 1:18.1. Very close fastest laps. I believe Max did an 18.1 as well, as we've lost Kieran from the race as well. Big shame. Side Space has come out in P11, going to get himself past Brocco. Harv sets an 18.1 though as well, so very, very close personal bests. Actually, if we have a quick look at the fastest laps, 18.1, 18.2, 18.1, very, very close times between those guys for the battle over the extra point. But Fosey completely smashed it at the park, is 17.8 on his fresh soft compound tyres as he tries to get himself up into the points. Yellow flags reset to 1 though. It seems as though there's been a bit of a confuffle here. Maybe as Fosey's exiting the pit lane or whatever. Trying to get through. Lap 26 of 33. Not too much else to report on apart from Mitch still struggling to get past Chris. He's probably thought that he needs to save a little bit of ERS if he wants to get through, so going to sit back for a couple of laps and try and just be patient, save a bit of ERS and then deploy all in as a bid to get himself up in front. But he has got a penalty to contend with, and that could offset him in getting into the top 6. But Mitch into the pit lane. Interestingly enough, not going to stick it out, maybe go for some soft tyres or what have you. Side of space on the back of Kraut, he's very, very close to turn 16, but gets him over and under, down in towards the pit straight, and on the run down towards turn 1, should be cleanly in front. Fotsky as well, going to want to close the gap. Is he going to launch it down into turn 1? Yes, he is. Has a little look, has to react twice, flinches twice, bit of contact as he tries to wrestle his way through on the outside. He sent the AlphaTauri into a spin, and Kraut has retired from the session. Big impact through turn 2, and a virtual safety car has been brought out. Big damage onto that AlphaTauri, you can see there, and we've lost half of our runners, only 11 runners left. So the drivers having to adhere to a 40% race speed delta. They're having to really slow down. So the marshals can clear any debris or any car. Not quite on course for a full safety car, but a VSC does the job. First introduced, I believe, in Monaco 2016. And being used in a variety of Grand Prix ever since. Max picks himself up a 3-second time penalty, so even if he does get onto the back of short mark, it's going to be a challenge for get past and then pull 3 seconds, especially in the limited time through that we've got. A lot of drive-through penalties being given there. That's a drive-through for short. Marcus, the man in P2, has been given a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. They had to keep under that delta, and if they didn't, they were punished harsh. So this could be Max and Harv both back onto the podium. They just need to keep it clean and not make any mistakes of their own, and short mark is going to be absolutely gutted with that one. That's Callum Jones as well into the pit to serve his drive-through. Just going to drive straight past his garage. And that is very unfortunate. So Max on the back of short markers knows he's got a drive-through, so does not need to make any rash judgments at all. Very deep from short markers though, probably going to come into the pits. Max does not want to send up the inside of a man who's pulling to the right to come into the pit lane. So Max up into P2, a very stonking recovery drive, but Jim seems to have it all composed at the front with only 4-5 laps left to go. Max is going to have his work cut out for him if he wants to pull up onto the back, and Jim has kept it completely and utterly squeaky clean. Short marker's going to come out where on track though, should be around about the P7 mark. He's got himself going though, so it's going to be P6 as he exits the pit lane. So yeah, not really much to report on now, apart from Max finding himself up into P2, Harv finding himself up to P3, and Lou in P4 as well, doing a very good showing for the Ferrari boys. Mitch crept himself into the points and is definitely closing on some other people. Barocco is an AI, but Mitch still closing on him, and that is going to double his points total if he can get himself past before the end of the race into the DRS. And that is going to be him cleanly past. And shouldn't be able to drive up to the back of Fotsky. If he does, I'll be very impressed. Maybe as Fotsky's tyres start to deteriorate a little bit more. Have to report back at the end of the race with that one. And Chris drives very well actually. As I said in qualifying, he doesn't really put it where it needs to be in qualifying, but he drives so consistently and so cleanly in the race that it doesn't really matter. He finds himself in P5. He's just kept himself out of trouble, hasn't really done anything special, hasn't driven like to drive his socks off at all. He's just driven well, driven consistently. Finds himself now picking up 10 points if he can keep it clean for the rest of the race, which with only a couple of laps left to go should be pretty plain sailing for him. And yeah, yellow flags set to 2 though. Looks as though Callum Jones going a little bit slowly. Fotsky on the back of Cider Space as well, now within DRS. So we'll cut to this battle for P8. He is now in the DRS of him, but not a lot of DRS to use to expend to catch back up to him. And really is now starting to close up to him, so these soft tyres do have a little bit of life left. Yellow flag, she set the one. That is Mitch round, and he's picked up some damage, so Brocco going to go back through, and he is going to stay in for points because Callum Jones is that far back, but he needs to nurse this damage home with only a couple of laps left to go. He's lost an entire half of his front wing, though. That is going to be hard to nurse home for the Renault, who was driving so incredibly well. But Fotsky still on the back of Cider. A race winner when it comes to Formula 2. Let's see what he can do in Formula 1. Has been driving pretty well, was fighting with the big boys for a while. In towards turn 11, very nicely done on those soft tyres, still with a little bit of life left in them, but Cider Space starting to stretch his legs a little bit. He's got the same amount of ERS, have the both of them. So Red Bull and Ferrari once again duking it out on track, just like they did from 2010 to 2012. Just needs a good exit, does the Red Bull of Foski, and he's going to drive up to the back of the Ferrari with DRS, with overtake and slipstream. Is it going to be enough side of space using what little ERS he's got left? Same with the Red Bull, now both conserving as they are below 10%. Here he goes, defensive to turn 1. Is he going to send it around the outside? Yes, he is, for P7. What an incredible move from the Red Bull to get past the Ferrari, use the track he had on the outside, the extra track he had, and just completely sent it around the outside. Then the Ferrari didn't really know what to do with it. Defended there, and he didn't really need to defend. He may have been safe, but Foski just so late on the brakes, used his tyre advantage and just swooped around the outside to claim P7. But the question is, will he keep it? And we are now on to lap 32 or 33, soon to be the final lap as Jim rounds us off. Maybe Side of Space can launch a counter attack, but he has got 5 second more time penalty to deal with. But Foski goes very wide through turn 9. This is going to be Side of Space creeping himself up the inside. The Red Bull goes wide to try and swoop around the outside, but the Ferrari maybe predicts it, so it goes out with him, and they're still going to be side by side. The Red Bull on the outside going to have to cut the grass, and nearly comes back on into the side of the Ferrari, and that was not smart at all to try and keep it around the outside of turn 12, I can say that much. A very nice driving from the both of them, kept it clean, and we are now on to the final lap of this race. Jim through sector 1 and now towards the sector 2 on his final lap, and nearly going to be lapping his teammate. As Mitch picks himself up another 3 second time penalty. Very, very unfortunate. He's been driving such a good race up until this point. Short Marcus on the back of Chris, though he has been chipping away at this as the Mercedes. He's been on those tyres for 21 laps almost. Really stretched them thin. This is going to be his last opportunity to get through. Needs to give it everything, use all of his ERS that he's got left. Where is Jim on track? Coming through the final chicane now. He's driven excellently all race, really played the strategy well. You could argue the safety car gave him a little bit of luck, but you have to make your own luck. He bit the bullet and really made the most of the strategy. He comes across the line to win the Spanish Grand Prix and make amends for the Formula 2 race, and Max, who drove so well to recover down and back up into P2, very nicely done. Hav a few seconds later will cross the line. P3 with Lou for the Ferraris will come home at P4, very nicely done as well. Chris just about going to hang on to P5 over Short Marcus, both of which who didn't pick up any penalties whatsoever. So Chris and Short really driving well. Side of space in P7 for Ferrari. Yellow flags through sector 2. I'm going to lose that position to Foski anyway, despite his best efforts. Brocco and Callum and Mitch is actually, he did come into the pit lane, so not going to pick up any points for this race, despite driving pretty well. But that is going to wrap up the action for today's race then. And we lost a lot of people from it. Driver of the day going to Brocco. He did not drive a second of that race, but his AI picking up driver of the day for him then as we go to the podium. Jin taking a very deserved win and another trophy to add to his collection. But he takes the win ahead of Max, who finishes P2 the same as his starting position. Half from pole down to P3, still a great position nonetheless on the podium, and Lou in P4 with Chris a great drive to P5, Marcus in P6, Comet in P7, Cider in P8, Brocco in P9 and Callum Jones in P10 with Mitch not the best races in P11. Did take the fastest lap however on his soft compound tyres, but Crowix, Kieran, Wumax, Broke, Paul, Benjamin and Golden Wolf all retiring from the Grand Prix, so a lot of retirements in this race. It seems as though if you finished, you definitely did a good job. But Jim takes the win ahead of the championship leader, and it's going to be a close fight between these two. We'll have to see how it unfolds in the next races to come, and towards the end of the season, which will wrap off in July. Every race, of course, will be commentated by myself, and sometimes maybe with the absolute amazing man that is Mitch. But hopefully we can have him alongside me next weekend if there are a couple more people who decide to turn up. But nonetheless, I've been Zach Sweeney, this has been OBF1, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.